So today the training is about bonding with unexpected extras, and the major topics are having coffee with your clients, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, client parties, bonding insights, and business mixers. So we want to start with our workbook. And the whole concept of bonding with unexpected extras is really going above and beyond. Above and beyond what a normal real estate agent would do. And we, as a lifetime Land Rover owner, still own the Land Rover, their kind of tagline is above and beyond. So that's rather new for them, but it's been long-standing with our theory on training for real estate agents. And this is one of my favorite photos. I don't know how they possibly did that, but that's really going above and beyond. So our concept here is it's just not standard procedure from the perspective of your clients. It's much better than expected, and a lot of these whole concepts come to the clients as a pleasant surprise. The concept about these is the clients just aren't expecting some of these things we want you to incorporate into your marketing. As we've seen in prior trainings, particularly with the 1, 2, 3 dialogue, it's about when you call and ask if you could help them, even in ways beyond real estate, they're not expecting that at all. The whole concept of sending personal notes is unexpected. Dropping by their house with a small gift of appreciation is unexpected. What is often done is agents will give a seller or a buyer a gift upon closing. That is kind of expected. But as we talked about in our drop-by training, dropping by at times other than a close of a transaction is not expected. So that kind of comes out of the blue and deepens the bond. Actually throwing a client party and being invited to a client party is considered unexpected. Inviting your clients out for lunch or coffee is unexpected, and it adds a level of personal touch and thought. One side note is, because we're in training A, I'm going to reference things you guys have never heard of before. So it's going to be a little bit, like what the heck is he talking about? So you'll just have to kind of, when you go back in time and do the training, some of this stuff will make more sense. These need to become disciplines and habits, ultimately creating a component of your marketing system. So they may be, these must be habits as you adopt them on a daily basis. You must convey energy, enthusiasm, and passion for your work and your care for them, meaning your clients. And again, they're unexpected extras. And you're coming from contribution. As almost in every training, we talk about the whole concept of coming from contribution. So I do sound somewhat like a broken record, but it's so important, that shift in mindset, and it's really going to come into play in this training. So what I mean by that is, when I say you're coming from contribution, you're not expecting something out of the action you're doing. You create the context of contribution and then go to your people in the marketplace from that context. So that basically frees you up. And the idea here is you don't necessarily have an expectation or a direct connection to the result. You just want to do it and just let the chips fall where they may, because this is who you are, meaning this is who you are coming from contribution. So you just want to keep plowing yourself into these unexpected extras because they multiply. For example, when you call a client and ask them for how you can help them, and it has nothing to do with real estate, if they need a contractor, as we saw in the 1, 2, 3 dialogue, that may make an impression but doesn't produce a referral. But you're deepening the bond step by step with your client. So as we go through these programs and you send them a personal note, which we've trained on previously, when you invite them to coffee, sometimes they may not know you well enough to accept, but you keep doing these actions of unexpected extras over time, and you break down the chilly barrier that often happens in our business, and then all of a sudden you get referrals from that client. So these tend to have a shelf life of deepening the bond that's not always immediately seen with your client. So that's when I say you come from contribution. Not all of this happens immediately, but that is your mindset. So what's kind of dovetails with today's training is you want to learn about your clients over time. You're not going to learn all these things immediately, but we've got a fairly long list in your workbook of things you want to notate. As I've mentioned, and we'll talk about this a little more when the training's done, we're building a new CRM. In fact, I was working on it this morning that's going to launch here in the next week or two. In your CRM, you want to notate a lot of this information, who their favorite sports teams is, and we'll get into this list in a second. But the reason for this is when you get into personal notes, drop-by gifts, if you can personalize them, it's much, much better. So the more personal your communication, the more personal your gifts to the clients, the better. So sports teams are a great subject matter, particularly now that the NFL season is starting. What are they passionate about? And a little note here on the side, be careful of politics. If you're really left wing or really right wing, you don't want to go too extreme because people are, they could be anywhere in the middle. So that's a very hot topic. What are their favorite hobbies? Number 3. What do they do on weekends? In your casual conversations, you can find this out by saying, how was your weekend? What did you guys do this weekend? But notate it in the CRM. Oh, we went to the mountains and we took our kids camping, etc. What magazines are lying around their house? When you preview their house, or if you're in their home, make a mental note of if they have a magazine about flying or snow skiing, etc. What vacations do they take? What their favorite movies are. Number 8, information about their pets. As we've seen in previous trainings, a great drop-by gift are things for their dogs or cats. Number 9, books they really liked. When do they go out to eat and where do they go? What are their favorite foods? What's on their wall, particularly their home office or study? That will give insight to the past of your clients. If they've attended a recent seminar, if they have a man cave, what's in it? Particularly guys will have sports stuff in there. What classes do they take? Do they work out? Moving on to the next slide, number 16. It's helpful to know where they're from. Where were they born? If you can get their birth date or anniversary, you would notate that in our CRM to send them a birthday card. It costs you 43 cents and $1 for the card, but rarely do agents keep up with people's birthday and anniversaries. As your client list builds, obviously you can delegate sending birthday cards and anniversary cards to your assistant. The name of their significant other, that's fairly fundamental. Their marital status, what are their goals, what awards do they like, what do they dislike. You want to stay away from things if they're really emotional about a particular topic. Are they active in the community? What schools have they attended, particularly colleges? If they hold titles, which you may see on their wall, or about where they work or what their position is at work. What's their career path been? How did they start their business? Are they a member of a country club? Where they have lived in the past, and what religion are they? Again, could be a very sensitive subject. You want to be careful there. Moving on to what about their family? You want to subtly learn details about their children, because as we've seen in previous trainings, giving gifts to their children is a great way to create a bond. What schools their kids go to, if their kids are in Little League or soccer and whatnot, what the kids' hobbies are. I've got a note here about Beanie Babies. For those of you that weren't in training, I used to carry a box of Beanie Babies in my trunk. In fact, I still have a huge box of them in there. You can now buy them on eBay for $1 or $2 because they used to be expensive. Now they're cheap. You can buy them in bulk. But when I would ever show a buyer to show up with a kid, I had a gift for the kid, for the child, and they just love that. So you can replace Beanie Babies with whatever a $1 or $2 gift could be. But it's a great thing to have to deepen the bonds. Moving on about what about their business. Obviously, this is on the long list, but here's just a business checklist for you when you get into that subject with your clients. Noticing a need. This is really something that should be a top of mind consciousness for real estate agents. The more personal you can make this, the better. You want to be solving their problems. So it's not that you want to consume your day with doing things outside of real estate for these folks, but once you make a note and you give them a gift or provide, let's say, send them a book about something that's of serious nature to your client, you immediately become another level of a contact for that client. It really deepens the bond. So you always want to be on a lookout for problems they're having, needs they have, and maybe even send them a note and reference it, or possibly send them a book. More bonding tips. Obviously use their first names. In previous trainings, we've talked about Dale Carnegie's classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and on that list is what is the sweetest word to a client is their first name. You want to be positive and upbeat, be a very creative problem solver, and a fundamental piece of dialogue is, I'll see what I can do. Sometimes you'll have clients ask you for really wild requests that maybe real estate related, may not be, but you should get used to this concept of, I'll see what I can do. So you obviously sometimes don't have an immediate answer to their problem or question, but you want to be able to give yourself a little bit of time, a breather, take a day, and see if you can come up with a creative solution for them. Another tip, always look people in the eye, stay centered. We've talked about this in previous trainings. That's going to be one of the benchmarks of our negotiating training. Stay centered in the eye of the storm. The more, as you move up in price points with real estate, you will get into complicated multi-tiered transactions, sometimes with lawyers, sometimes with divorces, sometimes all of the above, and that could be very, very heated discussions. Case in point, Stephanie Smith, who you've heard me reference before, double-ended a celebrity listing in Malibu. 19 acres, easements, problems with title, lawyers got involved, very complex deal to get done. And the seller, who was the Frank Lloyd Wright's grandson, was up there in years. In fact, he may have had a little dementia going on, but he would fly off the handle oftentimes. Very stressful situation for a guy, near 80 years old or whatever he was, and because this was a family property that had been Frank Lloyd Wright's originally, the architect. So there was all these different things going on, and he was rough on her, verbally abusive, literally. But I had to coach her to stay centered, let that stuff slide off. That is a real benchmark of a great negotiator, because you're going to have clients go south, other agents go south. You're going to have lawyers making threats, etc. And all you do is navigate through this jungle to get to the goal line. So that's a key tip, because at the end of it, you'll probably come out the hero, even if it's a very stormy escrow. To be interesting, be interested. What I mean by that is, as you ask questions about your clients and their interest, they will take an interest in you. Focus on listening more than talking. Be cautious of making promises that you can't keep, because your word in this business is paramount. Always filter issues from the client's perspective, and as we've seen in the 1, 2, 3 dialogue, offer help, express to how much you value them as a client, and then ask for the referral. So the bottom is the 1, 2, 3 dialogue. Moving on here, bonding by breaking bread because it's fun. Particularly, number one is the coffee shop. Meeting somebody at Starbucks or Coffee Bean or your coffee shop of choice is a great way to have 15 minutes with a prospect or client, buy them their coffee, and really deepen the bond. Going farther than that, you can obviously meet them for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and then when you have business mixers, you're going to have them at a restaurant typically, and just the fact that you're sharing food with somebody helps to deepen the bond. So we're going to talk about these 3 types of going the above and beyond, the unexpected extras. First is a coffee shop meeting. So things to do before you set up meeting a prospect or a client at coffee is obviously to call and confirm the meeting, keep it brief. When you do make the call, if it's just the initial invitation, you want to know exactly where to meet and confirm that location works for your client. So what does that mean? That means it's helpful if you know where they live and where they work. So if somebody's working in a high-rise in downtown LA and you want to meet them in Encino, it's not going to work for coffee, obviously. So it's common sense, but these are things you have to kind of plan on and figure out in advance. You want to be flexible and provide options and alternatives. So if you're going to use Starbucks, have their store maps up so you guys can, on the phone, just nail down a location so you can do it in one phone call. Prepare a CMA, a market analysis, depending on the situation that's relevant to that client. So here's some dialogue. So some coffee shop invitation, phone dialogue, and I'll step you through it. I'll role play a little bit. Hi, this is Scott with Thrive Homes and Estates. How have you been? Just wanted to connect with you quickly. The market's been really crazy, but I always want to make time to see my favorite people and just find out what's new with you. So what's going on with you? Then I would go into personal conversation. So again, the more you have in terms of reconnaissance on these people, where you can segue into something personal, their kids' little league team or whatever. So this is where the dialogue, you would customize it and tailor it to each client or prospect. So continuing on, hey, so let's continue this discussion soon. I'd love to catch up with you in person. I'll buy you coffee at the Starbucks on Ventura Boulevard in Balboa. I don't know about you, but if I don't put it into my schedule, it won't happen. What time and days work best for you? You would pause there and then confirm. Okay, terrific. That's locked in. Look forward to seeing you there. So you want to make this conversation both personal and relatively brief, and do a weather check to see how prominent they are. Don't be discouraged if a lot of your B and C level prospects won't meet you for coffee at first. The invitation, even if it's turned down, that doesn't work for them, has an impact. The fact that you actually thought of them to invite them to coffee, in and of itself, is part of our system. So yeses are not necessary. Don't be so tied to the result, as I've talked about these. The extension of the invitation deepens the bond. And you may call them a month from now. Hey, by the way, I knew you could meet for coffee last month. Do you have any time this month? You keep going this way, right? So this is all part of our mindset. So once you have a coffee shop meeting with your client or prospect, you want to keep the business component of the meeting short. Keep in mind, when people meet you for coffee, they're not thinking an hour and a half and they're going to order food. It's usually 10, 15 minutes, have a cup of coffee, in and out. So keep it short, but spend as much time as it feels right or is needed to enhance the personal bond and personal conversation. You want to dress for business, do more listening and actions. Keep remembering to be interesting, be interested in them. Take notes where needed and pay particular attention to notate needs, wants, and desires of what's going on in their lives. And then obviously blend in the 1, 2, 3 dialogue as it blends into the conversation. Okay, continuing on here. So after the coffee shop meeting, when you get back into your home office, the first thing you want to do is update that person's contact profile in the CRM with the notes you took, because you're going to be busy, you're going to get busier, and it's easy to forget things that they said. So you're probably going to have, if you're like me, you're going to have two sources of this. You're going to have notes that you actually could take, which will be brief because you don't want to sit there and interrupt the flow of your coffee meeting with your client. So your notes are going to be brief. You want to incorporate those, and you're going to remember some things, right? The next day goes by, 2, 3, 4, you're not going to remember that stuff. So you want to ideally update the CRM that day of the coffee shop meeting. You want to then put a tickler action list in the CRM, if you don't do it immediately, to follow up and send them a personal note, probably within 24 hours. Follow up and send them a personal note. And if you can assist with a need, act on that. So if you learned of a need at the coffee shop meeting, that could be incorporated in the personal notes or a drop-by gift or something else. Moving on to a little bit more substantial meetings, which could be a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner with a prospect or client. Again, be enthusiastic about the market and the unique opportunities it presents. So obviously with these meetings, you have much more time with the person, And if the market is slipping, you don't want to be negative. If the market is sliding, there's opportunity. So you want to tailor those discussions to the needs of that particular client. You want to have prepared and reveal insider information on the market and how it relates to them. So if they're thinking of trading up on their home, you could talk to them as, these 2 or 3 neighborhoods I know you're interested in. There are a couple opportunities that just came on the market. I know you may not be ready now, but I brought that information to show you, to give you an idea of where we could go in a couple of months. So again, it's best to obviously tailor this stuff to the needs of the client and their wants and desires. Their particular circumstance has nothing to do with your energy and enthusiasm. Some of your clients might be going through a troubled time. If you're meeting a client that's going through a financial change or job change or divorce, they're not going to be in the best of shape. But you need to be a voice of positive information and how they can find an opportunity and great energy. Obviously dress for business, but dress what fits the situation. So what I mean by that is, in normal cases we dress for business, but if it's super casual, and you know it's going to be super casual, you would dress down to fit that situation. So you don't want to come in a suit and tie if somebody's meeting you at a seaside cafe in flip-flops. It's just common sense. Obviously listen and ask questions. So here's some breakfast, lunch, dinner dialogue. Very, very similar. Hi Bob, this is Scott. How have you been? You'll notice you here in this dialogue is in caps because we want you to put a little bit more emphasis on that. Just wanted to connect with you quickly. The market's been crazy, but I always make time to see how my favorite people are doing. What's new with you? And you would continue on with personal conversation and obviously try to find something relevant to the client that is real estate related and something else that bonds you together. Continuing on with the dialogue. So let's continue that discussion soon. I'd love to catch up with you in person. Great idea. How about I buy you lunch? You know that place on Balboa and Ventura Boulevard? I don't know about you, but if I don't put it in my schedule, it won't happen. What times and days work best for you? And try to nail that down. And then you finish up with the dialogue. Moving on to a little bit more insider tips when you're at the breakfast, lunch, or dinner meeting. Again, provide that insider information we've referenced, a CMA and a full market analysis if it's relevant for their home, because everybody is always interested what their home is worth if you haven't updated that for them. Even if they're not considering selling and you're meeting just to create that connection, they always love to know what's happening around in their neighborhood, because they may not have any plans of moving, but they want to know, oh, Sally sold her house. I would love to know what that closed for. It's just natural curiosity. So bringing that information is not necessarily connected to the need of selling for the client. Have the real estate report on your laptop. Make personal conversations to deepen your bond, and of course ask for referrals. So in the top right in the screen, we see that the real estate report. That is in your online resource center. It's a large PDF file with lots of information from NAR and CAR and elsewhere about the current state of the market, interest rates, etc. That's a really good reference. So you can bring your tablet and kind of pick out things in the report that might be relevant to them, and then offer to send it to them as a PDF file via email or a hard copy. After these meetings, obviously update your contact profile for that person in your CRM. Follow up with a personal note immediately within 24 hours. And again, if you can find a need, you want to act on that. The great news about the business mixer is they're easier to do. In fact, much easier to do than client parties. To have a client party, you have to have clients. To do a business mixer, you don't have to have anything, because what we do as a company, particularly with Thrive, fits right in. You guys can start planning a business and mixer starting tomorrow. So we're going to get into this. And this is a great way to start getting referrals and networking. You have an advantage with the business mixer that no other agents do, and we'll get into that. So the business mixer, you want to invite your Thrive market merchants. So whatever territory you're going to focus on and be part of a Thrive website and Thrive community, there are merchants there. And they are perfect for you to just drop in on cold with your Thrive flyer, introduce them to Thrive, offer them free publicity. You'll do a free review on the Thrive site. So you're coming from contribution to meet these Thrive merchants and then invite them to the mixer. So most of your competitive agents don't have this type of capability. So it really dovetails very well for you. Very easy thing to do because you're appealing to their desire to build their own business. You want to network with them, they want to network with you, and they want to network with the other people coming to the business mixer. If a person sells insurance, or they're an attorney, or they own a printing business, whatever the case may be, it's all about networking and building their own business through networking. So here's some tips about what to do before the business mixer. You need to be a great planner, but it's not really rocket science. It doesn't take very long. You can do these things in 2 to 3 weeks. So give yourself enough time, but don't put it off for 2 months. Select a central place, typically a restaurant, and connect with a manager of that restaurant so they're on board. He knows you're going to throw a mixer there. I was invited to a mixer a few weeks ago at Hugo's in Agora, and what I learned there is that's a great place, and the management there loves these because it brings business, and they'll set up big tables for them. So some restaurants are much better than others. This was a breakfast mixer. Are much better than others at cooperating with you. So wherever your target market is, you probably want to find 2 or 3 restaurants that have enough room where you can have either a side room or a couple of big tables. You want to create a one-page flyer, probably in Microsoft Word, make it a PDF file with the exact date, time, and location so you can email that out or drop it off at merchants' businesses. You want to call and confirm. You want to explain the benefits to your invitees, meaning this is a way to help them build their business. So you're appealing to their own needs. Obviously, business mixers do not cost much, if anything, and you can keep costs to a minimum. You want to confirm what the food and beverage plans are and maybe line something up in advance. And then right before the business mixer, you want to call and confirm who's coming. And I would also throw in there that you would offer for them to invite some of their other business associates. So let the people you invite others. Hopefully those other invitations aren't to other real estate agents. So on this screen, the business mixer email copy. Here's something that you can cut and paste or rewrite and use as an email invitation. And what we're doing here is we're incorporating marketing your Thrive website, your Thrive community site. So it's on the co-founder and sponsor of Thrive Westlake Village or Thrive Sherman Oaks, etc. And we're explaining what that is. And this would be your email invitation. So this would be the body of the email. You could also put in here, and by the way, see the PDF file attached that they can print out and keep. So I would recommend having a PDF file as an attachment about your business mixer. You'll notice in the middle here, it might be a suggested $10 to cover, donuts and coffee. So often what happens with business mixers is the host, which is you, arranges with the manager to have the tables, have some pots of coffee, muffins, whatever, maybe some fruits, and there's a flat charge. Let's say it's $200, and you've got 20 people coming. They all kick in $10. You've basically got the cost of the business mixer covered with people kicking in. And anybody that's a serious person about a business, they're going to order coffee and something maybe to eat anyway to breakfast, so they're going to be spending money one way or the other. That's optional. You could do it either way. The concept of fire ready aim. This is an easy thing to do, and I recommend you do not procrastinate about it. That you actually, after this training, start planning. Even if you have 5 people attend your first mixer, just get it going. They're really easy to do. You'll improve them over time, be fast and loose about it, It does not have to be intensely organized. Typically, people have a list of people they can invite right in the Rolodex, right? You start with your own contacts that are relevant to the location, invite them, and then you can start inviting some new merchants through Marketing Thrive. This little graphic I put up here is one of Zig Ziglar's, the great motivational coaches, one of his great quotes. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. How true is that? The message here is we want you to take action on this business mixer concept and be different than the average real estate agent, because the average real estate agent doesn't do these types of things. Okay, here's some business mixer dialogue. Hi Bob, this is Scott from Thrive Homes and Estates. I'm the co-founder and sponsor of the community site ThriveThousandOaks.com. The site's dedicated to creating a more thriving life in Thousand Oaks and your surrounding area. I just wanted to let you know about that, and also about the upcoming business mixer that we're doing that I'd like to invite you to. Networking is vital to a thriving business, and since we're all so busy, it's often a challenge to meet and network with other business professionals in the area. At the mixer, you'll be able to meet other business people in the area, share ideas, and have fun while networking. Does this sound like something you'd be interested in attending? So, that's the basic dialogue for the invitation. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. It flows. You can obviously customize this. But if there are business people in the local area, you're going to get a fairly positive response at a fairly high level. Sometimes their schedules won't work, and all those logistics. Don't let that slow you down. Just start calling people and inviting them and start to line something up. You may have to shift the dates around, but again, we want you to start taking action and doing a quick business mixer to get at least the first one under your belt. So during the business mixer, be a professional host, but have fun. You don't want to be too uptight about these things. You want to have paper and pen handy to take notes about people. You want to write relevant notes in the back of people's business cards as they hand them to you, so you can start to connect the dots with some of the personal information. This is probably you'll laugh at this. Think about where you're going to place the cards on your person. Now let me explain why I put that in there. Several times I would get so busy I'd forget. I'd put one in my wallet, in my shirt pocket. If I wore a blazer, I'd have it there. Maybe I'd throw one in a briefcase. I had business cards all over the place, and I'd end up losing some or forgetting some, or actually going crazy back in my office. Where did I put that guy's business card? And I would check in one place and it would be in another. It actually kind of drove me nuts until I made a conscious effort. Okay, in this business mixer, everybody gets me a card is going in the inside of my left lapel pocket. Scott, business cards inside left lapel pocket. This is a silly tip, but this is something that drove me crazy. So just a word, of advice there. You want to introduce yourself to everyone that attends, even people that you don't know, that maybe some of your guests invited. Some of these folks you may have just invited on the phone, you haven't met them in person. So you're just going to, move around the room and network, ask questions about their business, and then ask them if you can stay in contact with them for future bigger and better mixers. So you're basically getting permission to put them in your marketing system. After the business mixer, you want to call the attendees and follow up. Obviously, you probably have business cards from most of these folks. You want to start lining up the next one, whether it's the next month, maybe you'll do them once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And as that rapport develops, then use the campaign dialogue and ask them for referrals, or ask them if they have anybody they would refer to for real estate. You want to send personal notes to all the attendees. Obviously, personal notes are a huge part of our system. You want to upload that contact information into your CRM right away and schedule the follow-up activities, and look for opportunities to give referrals to those people, going back and forth. So if they have a need, they may need a contractor, a handyman, or whatever. You could be a source of giving them advice and help and referring people to them, so it goes both ways. Let's talk about the concept of a client party. Although the client party is something I expect most agents will do later. Might even be 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, because obviously you need to have enough clients to make a party. But it actually can be bigger and faster than you think, because we'll blend in business mixers and other things that could be combination. But the idea of agents having client parties is not common. There are a couple agents I know of, particularly in the San Fernando Valley, that have mastered this technique, and it's produced huge benefits for them. And the party has grown year after year. And it's just casual, people drink, it's at a huge Mexican restaurant, and it changes the relationship. And what happens is clients end up bringing friends that become part of your network. So it builds on itself. So let's talk about some insights of the client party. You want to create a fun theme, a theme that people will want to attend. And remember, it's about having fun. And you want to let your people invite their friends. So that's part of the idea, is to network and generate more leads. Obviously, this is a fairly complicated process. So you need to plan and start early and have someone help you. Send out invitations with locations, directions, a cell number. As you can see by the little logo to the right, Mexican restaurants have been really successful for this concept, but obviously they could be other themes. Even having client parties at bowling alleys is a great idea. You want to follow up everybody with a phone call who did an RSVP. Once you're rolling and have enough cash flow, most agents end up starting with a part-time assistant, then a full-time assistant. So a lot of this client party work and other things we're going to talk about today can be delegated, because it is quite a bit of a work, but it has huge payoffs. You could partner with your vendors. That could be title insurance, homeowners insurance, home warranty, all kinds of different vendors in our business that could partner with you to throw this party. You want to actually create a budget, because this involves a lot of moving parts, food and potentially alcohol. You could do with an open bar, but you want to think about a budget. You want to create name tags, greet people at the door and introduce them to everybody, and you want to remember that you're the host. Obviously take a lot of photographs. Send thank you notes out to all who attend, a personal thank you note, and have someone have something to capture contact information of new people that you meet. We'll talk about a couple other tips in that regard in the business mixer. And have a blast. It's a party. Most agents are too uptight about this. They want it to be perfect. Being perfect is missing the point. This is, even if it's a party for 10 people, it should be fun. We have a new agent that's throwing one at her house. She's going to combine kind of a business mixer with a client party at her house. So it's really about just getting into this concept when you have enough people to throw some social event. Moving on a little bit to some more party tips is bowling, as we've talked about, is a great simple theme, and just sharing food is a great idea. It's about building the relationship, so we don't want you to stress about the food too much, and have fun planning it. One key thing is the last bullet point here, is the benefits start happening before the party. This is the unexpected benefit. What I mean by that is when you start planning the party and inviting people, and let's say it's a month away, the fact that those invitations are going out starts deepening the bond with your clients, and you might even have referrals coming to you from people before the party. So that's really the hidden benefit of this whole client party concept. So what happens after a client party is obviously invariably you'll start receiving referrals, because you're going to move up in the level of people's minds as to the go-to agent. So moving on, a fundamental truth about real estate sales, it's about truly connecting, bonding, and networking, as we've seen in previous trainings. A couple insights on bonding is you must have faith in the networking by referral system, because it truly works. You must have faith in yourself and your customers, because over time they will feel compelled to reciprocate as you continue with these outbound efforts. You want to recruit vendors in your Thrive market, because you have an edge of offering them free publicity, so we want you to take advantage of that edge and use it. We recommend you do the mixer at a restaurant within the Thrive market, so it's physically really easy for these merchants to get to. Have Thrive flyers with you at the mixer, so people can go to the websites and again have the people you invite bring their own contacts. Hopefully they're not agents.